Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's November the 18th, 2021. We're in Maui for the next 4 days and are staying in this nice condo that my father-in-law found on VRBO. We're here with my wife's parents celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. We arrived from the big island of Hawaii late last night, so everyone else is still sleeping. The main objective while on the island is visiting Haleakala National Park in the next few days. I decided to hit the ground running this morning and explore the area around the condo since we're right on the ocean. Well, I wasn't running, but I did hit the ground, and I got a really nice Maui owie, as you'll see in just a few minutes. Here it is in slow motion. After all, who doesn't like a good slip and fall? It was lunchtime after everyone was up and ready for the day's adventures. I found the perfect oceanfront dining spot called the Burger Shack. It's a part of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel and is a gem of a spot tucked away next to D.T. Fleming Beach. You can watch surfers and swimmers while enjoying a burger, sandwich, or one of their delicious milkshakes.
About 1,200 feet from the road and 205 feet below you is one of the more spectacular sights in West Maui. Called the Nakalele Blowhole, the ocean here has undercut the shoreline, pounding underneath the lava shelf, where it spits through a person-sized hole in the lava. The blowhole varies tremendously with the tide and the size of the surf. I was here once when the blowhole wasn't doing anything. Zero water was coming from the hole. 4 hours later, I returned and I found the blowhole shooting 70 feet into the air every few seconds with such vicious, explosive force that it made the ground tremble, and I was convinced the earth was going to split beneath my feet. It was like a jet engine rocketing seawater into the air with amazing fury. High tide is usually your best bet, and high surf adds to the fury. Now remember, this is wilderness. There's no guardrail to stop you from shrinking the gene pool should you use bad judgment and fall into the hole. And if the blowhole is pumping, which is pretty common in the winter, get only as close as common sense dictates. It's hard to predict which waves will make it scream. Huge waves sometimes produce nothing, while wimpy-looking waves may surprise you. And no matter what, never stand between the hole and the ocean. A rogue wave could come along and knock you in that hole, and you don't want that to happen. The area to the left of the blowhole is some of the most amazing-looking landscape you'll ever see. It looks like an alien war zone where combatants fought with acid. Over countless eons, billions of tons of sea spray has shot through the blowhole and been blown by the wind. The spray just attacks the fractious rocks on contact, literally eating the land, and the results are never to be forgotten. Rock hounds will enjoy seeing how the elements have tortured the rocks into various bizarre and jagged formations. That parking lot we passed a bit ago, the one that I told you to remember, is the perfect place to park if you want to do a short hike that takes you through that acid war zone before you get to the Blowhole. If the Blowhole isn't overly angry while you're there, you'll notice a whole community of life living off this phenomena. Crabs tempt the ocean by lining the steamy hole during pauses, eating algae growing on the sides, in constant danger of being swept away by a wave. Primitive-looking blennies, also called rock skippers since they can leap from pool to pool, well, they live their whole lives in 3 inches of water that remains from the splashes that shoot out of the hole.
Our next stop was historic Lahaina, a former whaling village and the royal capital of Hawaii from 1820 to 1845. I really liked it here, and we went back several times during our stay. Behind the old courthouse is the largest banyan tree in the United States, which covers nearly 2 acres. There's a lot of history to be found here, including the remains of an old fort and a prison, which we didn't have time to see. While I was looking for something cold and refreshing, my wife was looking for pearls. Now what do you do with it?
Shuck it. Yes. Put them in there. And we always bless our pearls and thank our oysters. The way we do that, we have a little ceremony. So you take this so you don't get your fingers smelly. Tap him 3 times. And then we're going to say aloha. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Aloha. All right. Now that he's properly blessed. He doesn't want to give up the goods. He's really clamped up tight. There we go. Okay, so in all this mess, there, see it in there, in the middle of the tissue? Okay. Oh, beauty and hope is what white means. That's a nice one. That's a very nice bright white. So now he's ready to set. He has his little belly button. The Maui leaf was originally only worn by royalty. So now they make like the fillets for men for marriage and things like that. So it's a special occasion leaf now. And I like that how it frames it. And it's done with the diamond cut. So you get a little bit of the sparkle. And then this is the meaning of the Maui leaf.
Fleetwood's on Front Street is a restaurant and bar owned by rock and roll icon Mick Fleetwood. His vision for combining food and music came to fruition in 2012 with the opening of his very first restaurant. And it's where we chose to have dinner tonight.
You folks okay with bar seating? Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Right this way. Mai Tyler, our version of a Mai Tai named after Steven Tyler. More spirit forward. Sure, will this come out without?
but I can have this come up first if you want. That's what I was gonna do. Yeah.
Okay, so why am I missing that for that one? Get it done, so you gotta get it done.
You got the seafood linguine?
Yes, it's very good.
I reconnected it, I redid the line, I left the air out.
Iao Valley was the location of Maui's last giant battle for supremacy. Let me set the scene for you. The king of the Big Island was Kamehameha the Great. In 1790, he decided that the time was right to invade Maui again. After he had personally killed the leading chief of Maui, his forces swept into Kahului and Wailuku. The two sides were fairly equal except for one thing: the cannon that Kamehameha had nabbed from the seized sloop belonging to Metcalfe's son. We talked about that on the West Maui tour. With this cannon, which the natives affectionately nicknamed Lopaka, which is Robert, and some captured, although now happily compliant Westerners as advisors, Kamehameha was able to utterly annihilate the Maui forces. He steadily rolled Lopaka along the rocky trails into Iao Valley, backing the troops into a corner, and proceeded to slaughter almost everyone. Many of the women and children had been moved higher up the cliffs, and they saw their loved ones die as old Robert, loaded with shells and sometimes rocks, just blasted away. The carnage was so great that the bodies clogged the stream. Even by Hawaiian standards of the time, the killing was appalling. The natives called the battle Ka'u Wa'upali, which means clawed off the cliff, and Kepaniwai, which means the damming of the waters. Today, Iao, it's only 3 letters, but it's kind of pronounced like someone just burned your arm. Iao. It's a peaceful, beautiful valley. It seems impossible to imagine the death that permeated the area. The valley stream is lovely, and there are short trails looping around the bottom. Parking is $10. A prominent point sticking up from the valley is the Iao Needle. Now, looking at it straight on, it's easy to understand why the Hawaiians viewed it as a fertility symbol. But it's actually the end of a long, winding knife-edge ridge called an erosional remnant. In fact, if you saw it from the side, you'd probably call it the Iao Plate. Once you park, it's 134 baby steps to get to the upper lookout. This valley is what remains of the central caldera or crater of the West Maui volcano. You'll likely see people playing in the small, clear pools near the bridge. There's a sign that warns swimming in Iao Stream is not recommended. The rocks are very slippery and the water is flowing fast. Now, not recommended is not the same as prohibited. So use good judgment and enjoy it if you think it's right.
Now the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to make our way to Haleakala National Park.
Well, here comes the endless switchbacks necessary to scale the steep slopes of Haleakala. You know, donut ring of clouds often forms part of the way up, and it fools people into thinking that the summit's socked in. Most of the times, those clouds clear before the summit. We're going to be afforded many outstanding views of West Maui and the valley between the mountains. Well, unless we're heading here for sunrise, then we'll have to see many of those sights that we're going to be mentioning on the way down. So let's settle in for our cruise up the mountain, and let me pass on a tip that I made going on the Hana Highway. Have you ever noticed that passengers sometimes get car sick, but drivers rarely do? Motion sickness is in our heads to a certain degree. So if a passenger who's feeling queasy takes the wheel, that can often help a bit. Believe it or not, it even works in small airplanes that I fly. If I have a passenger who's feeling nauseous, I have them take the controls and teach them how to fly, and it usually goes away. We're about to approach the park entrance, where you'll pay your $30 per car entrance fee. You know, for years, admittance was often free here because, and only the government could come up with this kind of logic, they, quote, didn't have the budget to have someone collect money all the time, unquote. Can you imagine Disneyland making that policy? Now they do everything by credit card, and no cash is accepted if the booth is unmanned. Hey, if we're going to be at the summit in the late afternoon to see the sunset, consider staying until past dark for one of the clearest views of the Milky Way that you may ever see. We may also be treated to something available really only in a few places in the world. It happens as you're standing at the crater's edge with the clouds below you and in front of you, and they have to be relatively close, all the while the sun is low and directly behind you. The Lele'ivi lookout is a good place to see that since it's close to the Ko'olau Gap's clouds. Called Spectre of the Bracken, or Akaku Anui Nui in Hawaiian. It's when you see your own shadow on the clouds with a rainbow surrounding your shadow. It's an incredible sight. The Hawaiians felt blessed to experience this, and they believed that what they were seeing was their actual soul, and the rainbow was a promise from heaven that their souls would be taken care of. If you're lucky, maybe you'll be blessed too. Inside the next hard right hairpin turn, you'll see a parking lot for the Lele'ivi lookout. You know, most people just blow right by this place in their frenzy to get to the summit. They assume that Lele'ivi merely gives them another nice view down the mountain to the coast. Too bad, because Lele'ivi holds a surprise. Walk 5 minutes to the end and the crater itself just suddenly explodes into view. What a startling sight! It looks very different than the more traditional view at the top, and it's well worth the diversion. A small shelter protects you from any wind that may be present. This is a good alternative to the summit for a less crowded sunrise. The overlook is a good place to experience what's called the Spectre of the Bracken during the afternoon if conditions are right. The upper visitor center ahead after mile marker 20 has some kickin' views. But let's bypass it for now and continue a little farther to Red Hill, which is the actual summit and has a glass-enclosed viewing area. You know, most visitor information refers to Haleakala Crater as the largest extinct volcanic crater in the world. Cool. Too bad none of that statement is true. It's not the largest, it's not extinct, and the crater is not volcanic in origin. In fact, the park now prefers to call this a basin or a valley or a wilderness area. But we'll refer to it as a crater because, people look at you funny if you mention Haleakala Valley. After Haleakala built itself up, it went to sleep for several 100,000 years, as most Hawaiian volcanoes do. During its snooze period, 2 great valleys formed on either side due to erosion. These valleys cut at least 5,000 feet deep into the very core of the volcano. They worked their way up the mountain until they met at the summit, back to back. Now the mountain was essentially cracked down the middle, separating the east and west sides, with only a thin ridge between the 2 great canyons. Then, Haleakala awoke for one last series of eruptions, before falling forever silent, and eventually sinking under its own weight back into the sea. That's what will happen to all the Hawaiian Islands. This last series of eruptions is in its final phase, having last erupted around 1790.
so active because they're these fish. They're black and white and yellow, and they have this like thing coming off of the fish, and it's just beautiful. There's 2 of them up top.
I purchased an hour tour for all of us on the Reef Dancer, which is a glass-bottom boat, as an anniversary gift for my in-laws.
It's been a long, hard season. I'm feeling weary to my bones. I guess that's my reason. I've packed my bags and now I'm gone. Somewhere between the sun and the deep blue sea. That's where you find me. Tender red, flat out on a beach bed. That's where you find me. Working on my fishing skills in a little boat that I'll rent. Ain't got nothing but time to kill. No vacation's been more heaven sent. Somewhere between the sun and the deep blue sea. That's where you find me. Tender red, flat out on a beach bed. Somewhere between the sun and the deep blue sea. My feet in the sand, green umbrella drink in my hand. That's where you find me. Between the sun and the deep blue sea. That's where you find me. Tender red, flat out on a beach bed. Somewhere between the sun and the deep blue sea. That's where you find me. My feet in the sand, green umbrella drink in my hand. If you must, oh, if you need me, between the sun and the deep blue sea.
Did you guys see her?
Tell me about Sandy.
She is a sandbar shark that hangs out in the harbor. She doesn't live here, but she's here so much we say she lives here. Maybe 6 feet long, and she comes to the harbor to get scraps off the fishing boats and drink the bloody water off the cutting boards when they clean their fish. So sometimes when the fishing boat by us parks, she's swimming by our windows, but we just saw her
Okay.
in the harbor by the break wall. Okay.
Good.
There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I was wanting shaved ice as soon as I stepped foot on the island, so that's the first thing that I did as soon as I got off the boat. A trip to the Hawaiian Islands wouldn't be complete without a luau, now would it?
It lets us know that you've already checked in. If you're interested in purchasing flower lace, you can check in with the
That's right, you're
bartenders.
stalling and giving me
Well, we
time.
do have. Here's your guys' seating partner table.
I get off the next
gonna
party
lay-
in line right around the corner.
Now we're gonna need your help so that they can lift the pua out of the pan. Can everyone say hapai? Hapai. One more time, hapai. Hapai means to carry. On the count of 3, we're all gonna yell hapai. 1. Try that one more time. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And of course, the luau. We all know luau's to be parties, so we want to get this party nice and loud the entire night. But we're gonna start that right now. I'm gonna say aloha first, and then I want all of you to yell aloha back to me as loud as you can. Let's try it. Aloha! Not bad. That was a good start to the night. And let's add some hands.
This is Louisiana over
The
here.
hands are gonna go in the same direction that your feet are moving.
Oh yeah.
And again, this is called the kaholo. The kaholo is the very first step you learn when you're taught the hula. We're gonna give y'all one more try with our hula lesson. A silhouette of your hula dream.
I made a hula dream in Waikiki,
Make your son.
and every day she does a dance for me. And it's the dance
And
that
point
everyone
1,
should
2,
see.
3. Me slow.
The hula
Slow.
hooly, hooly,
Fast, fast, fast. Me slow.
the hula
Slow.
hooly, hooly,
Fast, fast, fast. Kaholo. And throw a kiss out. And a big round of applause for all of our hula dancers tonight. Thank y'all so much for joining us for our hula lesson. We hope y'all enjoyed yourself. So I'll give you one piece of advice, and that is the more noise all of you make, the more all of them shake. So one more time, I'm gonna ask you, are y'all ready? There we go. Now that's ready. So this next dance we do for you talks about the fiery passion between the two in the exciting Aparima Yoranda.
honua ya kea kova e kamohuali I hola mai ke au. Helea e ai o pele honua me e kaleni ai puina mai kumokua e kini o kea kua. Ya mai kauli kope kwa e na huali ya pele a e hua mene une. Kaya tali hono kaho ilu no kwa o kumalawa o lono.
Ka umalaya iya ike ala nuya li ane a ibuna a ilalu ne ne o pele kawaini makahiki ia o ke kalani no ke pele Aina ia mai kapuana ia aina la o pele ia mai ia aina ho mai kapuana ia no ia no ia o ke kalani no ke pele aina ia mai kapuana ia aina la o pele ia aina ho mai kapuana ia
But anniversary couples and honeymooners, go ahead and face your spouse, grab them nice and tight, and enjoy the next dance together as Koa sings for you the beautiful song, Aine.
What a hug. Oh. Okay.
There be no one in your place. I feel so lost. Everything seems so
And folks, this is the fireworks star Luau. So I want y'all to put your hands together and make as much noise as you can for Cabo!
Ladies and gents, aloha! Aloha! You guys sound like tourists. More energy. Aloha! Aloha!
like the mulberry tree, the bark of the mulberry tree that we put it on top of the wood, and my brother hand paint those. And after that, me and my mother, that we put the leaves, these leaves on the sides, we call it lauhala leaves. And we cook that leaves before we are to make it pliable, and we put it on the side of this. And the meaning of the sea turtle, it means our good luck and long life. And this one, it's like a sacred of the volcano is sacred over here in the islands. Thank you.